Okay, so this is my Math 131 independent learning project. My name is Sam Rutherford. I've only done one other video for this class. First and foremost, I'd like to say I had a lot of fun. I know the art of this looks like a fourth grader did it, but I had a lot of fun because I haven't done really an art project since like early high school or late middle school. So this was a lot of fun to make, and it was really cool with the physical component because most things are done on technology nowadays, so this is actually really cool. But aside from that, let's jump into it. So the Banzhaf power index, originally named after our friend John Banzhaf, was created in 1946 originally by Lionel Penrose. And Lionel Penrose created it, and then Banzhaf was the one who actually popularized it and went into the specific details of how it can be used in game theory, social theory, and most importantly, elections and voting theory. So the first thing that we're going to cover with this is voting power. I have my physical essay here, which of course I'm going to submit as a second scan with the project, but this is everything that I wrote as a summary, but I also have my notes right here to explain the other specific components versus the summary. So voting power is the main priority of the Banzhaf Power Index. It measures the power of individual voters within a weighted voting system. So essentially it takes how important a voter's vote is in a larger scale, contributing to an election or contributing to anything that's being voted on. Criticality is how important a crucial vote is or how important a voter is. Now, I'm not saying no voter is important, always go out and vote, but a perfect example of this in a weighted voting system, which is why this index is so important, is if we talk about New York. Now, I know, of course, New York is definitely not split up into 5 districts. It is way more than that, but for simplicity's sake, if we're voting on someone and the quota has to be 40 in order for your district to be important or for your coalition to be important, which we'll talk about coalitions in a second, if the quota is 40 and all of these are divided into 5 districts, obviously this district little 3 down here is going to be far less important than this district that has 41. Now this district that has 41 is a dictator. So a dictator is someone who meets the quota exactly, so it's greater than or more than, or greater than or equal to the quota. And then anything less than that is of course going to be grouped into a coalition, which we will get to over here in just a moment. Veto power is when a coalition or a group or a district, whatever you're grouping in as your voters, is critical in every single formula that we use to talk about voting. So this 41 would obviously be critical in all of these, and that means it has veto power, meaning that it can determine if someone wins or loses. And then dummy, which is an awful term, I'm not calling anyone a dummy, but dummy means that you essentially don't matter in that election. So this little 3 down here in this part of New York would not necessarily be crucial in this aspect. And again, this is just for scale of simplicity. So talking about moving to examples, we have this right here, and this is a physical example of how the index works. Now, first you would group these in groups of 2. So as you can see, I have them paired in groups of 3 and then 4, but before that you would group them even smaller and in groups of 2. This determines the criticality of each single part of the index. So the index is up here. So the quota is 16, red is worth 12, yellow is worth 6, blue is worth 4, and green is worth 2. So when you group them together, they equal a certain amount, and that's how they meet or don't meet quota. So 12 plus 6 plus 4, 22, that equals 16, 20, 18. But then you get down to here, where you get yellow, blue, and green, 6 plus 4 plus 2, that equals 12. That is not greater than or equal to the quota, which means it does not meet quota. So that means this set would not work as a coalition of voters. It would not be tangible and it would do nothing in an election. They wouldn't work. So this basically takes all of your possibilities for each individual single voter or each individual single section of voters and determines how crucial they're going to be in an election. This is extremely, extremely important concerning the Electoral College and our electoral system here in the States, because pretty much everything we do is based off this power index. Like, this basically tells us who's important in elections, which states aren't, which states are, and which sections of states aren't. Gubernatorial, electoral college concerning the president, and even for just general legislatures concerning Congress and senators in both the House and the Senate. So yeah, that's this for that example. And then one really cool thing that I found, of course, this is not my work. All these I drew, and well, of course I got this from a source, which I will list in my later sources. But this is actually a really cool program that I found online that I'm also going to list in my sources. I just would like to print it out because it was colorful and it was nice. You can actually input the weight of each vote of each state, and it coagulates a formula for you to determine if these candidates will win based on how many votes they get in each state, which I think is really cool because you can basically almost not really predetermine, but you can hypothesize how much weight a candidate holds in the states and if they are tangibly going to win an election. So this is really cool. It's a really cool resource I found online. And I think definitely it should be something really cool to send off to the class because it really covers a lot of things. So the reason that I picked this topic is it has nothing to do with music as a music major, but the thing that I really liked about it is when we were learning about instant runoff voting and pairwise comparisons, that was one of my favorite parts of the voting unit. And this is very, very similar, if not directly similar, just more complex to pairwise comparisons. So this is literally just taking every tangible possibility, putting them head to head, and then putting them head to head in groups to see which candidates or which groups of voters comes out to be the most important. So I definitely know I'm probably over time on my explanation, but I did want to be thorough. This project was very, very fun. Concerning all the rest of the specific details, they will be in my paper, but those are the generality of things I would want to cover because I didn't want to word vomit at you, and I just wanted to make sure all the important things that I thought were crucial to this topic of the Banzhaf Power Index were covered. Thank you so much for allowing me to have this creative outlet to do this project because again, it was a lot of fun. Thank you so much.